head past the pits, moving up to top gear to 6th gear, we have paddle shift on our car, so it's just a question, like a Formula 1 car, of flicking the levers behind the steering wheel. It's a very easy process. It's been a very reliable one, I have to say. It's quite simple in the way that it operates in some respects, but certainly helps us around the lap dramatically, and it enables us to go right into the heart of turn 1 at something like 280 kilometers per hour. Very, very high speed arrival, and because it's slightly uphill, we can brake supremely low. In fact, we used the first part of turn 1 as a braking zone rather than a corner, and try to get it all slowed down for the little left. There's been a lot of gravel there, a lot of cars flying off the road, and this is like a changeable feast every lap. You don't know what to expect when you get there. It's 2nd gear. We use the curb on the way in. You can gently ride it. You sort of have to have an agreement amongst the drivers as to how aggressive you're going to be on the track. We have to have a lot of respect for we're sharing this car, and we have to agree how much aggression we're going to put into the lap through the race. Then you try to avoid the curbs for the rest of that first short chicane and get a good traction out. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th down the hill, you get tremendous acceleration. And Le Mans car is so slippery through the air that it builds speed deceptively quickly. And you're heading down then into what I call the fairground chicane. It's very bumpy on the way in, and you just launch the car in 3rd gear, something like 160 kilometers per hour. 4th gear probably in the race actually, and just total blind faith. There's nowhere to go off, and you've got to change direction on the top of the crest. It's bumpy, the car's sliding, and you pick up some understeer, some sliding from the front. When you're satisfied that you've got enough space, you're hard on the throttle, and again slightly downhill again towards Tetra Rouge, and you're really heading into a cul-de-sac in 5th gear, something around 240, 250 kilometers per hour, and then downshift just 1. You try and brake a little bit earlier there and a little bit less, and let the car float, because now you're entering the Mulsanne straight. There's a bump in the middle where you have to have total belief the car will stick. The car literally takes a jump of a couple of meters across the road. You use the curb on the exit just to stop the slide, but you can't really ride it because otherwise you're damaging the underneath of the car. Then you're into the Mulsanne. Sweeps a long way right for a start, as you may know if you've been down there. But we're already into 6th gear before we really get on the straight part. And the first chicane is out of sight even at that stage. And as soon as you look down, we have a speed readout on the dashboard. You're doing 280, 300 clicks. And quite quickly we're building up to 320, 324. The engine starts to sing. The car's moving around a little bit on the bumps and tracking where the trucks are going down the straight on a normal day. They leave some grooves, and our car tends to want to be in those grooves. And the road is crowned, of course. It's a main road rather than a racetrack. A racetrack tends to be cambered in one direction for drainage. A main road, of course, is crowned in the middle. So you're really, it's a straight line, but it's surprising how much work you're doing to keep a car where you want it at 324 kilometers an hour. We're then looking for a marker on the left-hand side of the track. There's a 200-meter board, and there's a little gap in the barrier where marshals stand, which we're using as our braking point, about 180 meters from the corner. And then the corner starts rushing at you, and as the brake temperatures build, finally the retardation looks remotely sensible. You come down 4 gears, and this is why we can brake so late. Our car is supreme under braking. It's something I'm looking forward to using in the race. And sweep through, it's very bumpy. The chicanes that they put in down the Mulsanne are very bumpy, and you're bouncing around. You have to keep off the curbs, so they're like a sawtooth effect. And you just build speed once again. It's a similar story down to the 2nd chicane. This time, though, it's a little bit easier on the way in. It's a left-right now instead of a right-left. Again, about 310 kilometers an hour, down 3 gears, and use the entry as you're still braking as you go through the entry, and take the final shift right in the middle of the chicane, and hit the throttle and hope the back end will transmit the power. And then you basically point at the barrier on the way out, and to give yourself as much traction in a straight line to build the speed, to build the downforce, turn at the last moment, and gently shifting. There's a little light on the dashboard to tell you optimum shift. It's different revs in each gear for the optimum power. And then you're heading over the crest into the Mulsanne corner. don't look at the runoff area there because it's terrifying, because there's a roundabout and a barn and buildings and not a place to go off the road. We both had, Guy and myself both had some punctures there, which very much caught our attention through free practice and compromised our practice running, I have to say. And then you're braking in a curve. It's very bumpy. There's a curb on the inside. You must not hit that curb. I hope everybody speaks English in this room. Otherwise, talking mumbo jumbo. And then you've got to come down 4 more gears for the very tight part of Mulsanne. And we cheat a little bit there because the curb on the inside is just painted. So we go over that and we use the bollards on the inside as our apex, and get straight on the throttle. It's a narrower straight now. You're going through the trees, a couple of little kinks. You're over 300 kilometers an hour straight away, heading towards Indianapolis. Depends on wind direction. That can often be your fastest part of the racetrack down into Indianapolis. And you're looking for one tiny little postage stamp on the inside that you want to run over. You have to hook the car up, down 1 gear, through, still 270 kilometers an hour, and suddenly the left of Indianapolis is right on top of you, is just coming in your windscreen. And you've got to get down 3 gears, but there's a lot of camber on this corner, so you can commit to the corner and start getting on the throttle, and you drive the car through the corner on the throttle, controlling the oversteer, and a really short, sharp acceleration down to Arnage then. And any Le Mans car you ever drive does not want to slow down for Arnage. There's something curious about the racetrack there, something curious about the level of the smoothness of the road, and you get sucked into the corner, and when you get there you can't slow down. 2 curbs you must not touch, 2nd gear again, 1st gear in qualifying, 2nd gear in the race to minimise your gear shifts. A downshift costs you fuel because there's a blip on the blipper, so you're all the time trying to save fuel as you're trying to build speed. And then you've got good traction out of there then, and a couple of left sweepers, once again up to top gear before you get into the Porsche curves. There's a lot of ripples on the way into the Porsche curves. You've not left the Route Nationale yet, you're still on the main road. And you try to brake as little as possible from 300 kilometers down to about 240, 250. Take 2 gears down, 2 shifts, and turn the nose into Porsche, and as soon as you're confident that the nose will go in, you jump on the throttle pedal again, and you just accelerate all the way through the first part of Porsche. A couple of nasty bumps developing through there over the years. You're now onto the racetrack proper, but as the circuit is getting weathered over the years, it's getting bumpier and bumpier through there. And again, you're just following concrete walls now, there's nowhere to go. 5th gear, and then in the middle of the corner is a long, long right where you take 4th, and we catch the slower cars. Sometimes they're out of view as you drive into Porsche. Sometimes you can see nothing in front of you, and before the end of the corners, we're all over 2 other, say 911s. We are much, much faster through this series of corners, probably 10 seconds faster than some cars in this series of corners, so traffic's a big issue. And then the one corner that all Le Mans drivers hate is the little left after the Porsche curve. What's that one called? Maison Blanche. Because it's off camber, and many, as Derek Bell said to us, many a great racing driver has crashed into the wall there or tipped their cars over. It's a horrible corner because you commit to it and it's blind, it's 4th gear, it's 240 kilometers per hour, and if you get it wrong, it's always too late. By the time you recognise you've got it wrong, you're already in the middle of an accident. Sweeping chicane where it's easy to overtake cars but also easy to touch with the back markers. Then you've just got 2 little chicanes before the end of the lap, one very much leading into the other. 6th gear down to 3rd, you ride the curbs on the way through, it tends to pull the back of the car out, collect it up, the last forward chicane, and over the line, just another 4,900 and some odd kilometres to go.